Well, the boys are back, and I'm having a whale of a good time, Chris. How about
boy.
you?
Recap time. Billy Butcher up to the end of the first episode was still missing. Vought is, now getting involved with global politics. They're teaming up with the American military to send the supes out and fighting terrorists out there with the serum.
The boys are in hiding and from Vought and the government for all their transgressions in season 1. We now have Giancarlo Esposito with the formidable Edgar, where we're not sure what his deal is. He seems like he's a normal person, but he also doesn't seem scared of Homelander.
We've got the Deep, who's still kind of disconnected, but now he's getting connected. He's kind of, this cult seems to be trying to get their talons into him or something. And
Scientology, their cult of Scientology.
It's clearly supposed to be sort of a stand-in for Scientology. Yeah. A-Train is maybe healthy again, but it doesn't seem like that's going to last. Starlight and Huey are still sort of working under the shadows to topple Vought, and by the end of the third episode, they managed to hit him pretty hard. They managed to get the word out to the media that all the supes are actually created, given the serum to create their powers, that this is not something that is inherited. But interestingly, we also find out that Homelander's son has the powers. So they can get the serum, but they can clearly pass that, unless we're going to get a reveal later that they're also testing on the kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows where this goes?
My wife, she's alive.
Well, I think my overall general feeling and review of episodes 1 through 3 is it's great. I love the boys. The boys are, I'm sorry to say, the boys are back, and they're doing the thing that they do very well.
But this is a fucking mess.
It's a perfectly sized TV show, meaning it feels cinematic, but it doesn't go too big. It doesn't overblow itself. It always feels fresh and new, like we're always seeing new sets and different places, but still getting like fun superhero cinematic action when we need it. And oh boy, that violence is just, it's so violent, it's fun. It's cartoon and fun.
The 3 episodes almost were kind of a little mini story arc. We kind of, we get really not only the introduction to Stormfront, who's definitely going to be a very formidable adversary. And at first, it's kind of, it's Stormfront. Who's from Seattle? Like, no, Portland. And you're like, what, Portlandia?
Right.
Oh. Whoa. No. By the end of the 3 episodes, really reveals both her powers and her intentions to some degree.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
I love that Kimiko got some finally, like, she's more than just like, oh, we just throw her out there to beat up people when we need it. Like, oh, she's getting some real emotional moments.
It really shows what the show was doing early on. I think the first 2 episodes, while fun and having its moments, is slower, having a few more character moments.
Sure.
And by the 3rd episode, okay, here's Stormfront, here's Billy Butcher doing his thing, and it's the chaos is ensuing again.
We blow it up in the air.
A little bit slower, and I don't mean that it's bad. It's just a little slower, setting up Kimiko and her brother. Her brother is a imported terrorist.
No, super villain according to Homelander. With branding matters.
Branding matters.
So let's get out there.
I feel like Amazon planned this, that they were going to always do maybe 3-ish episodes to release right away. Because if we got just the first episode, it would have been fine and great. And sure, I would have probably been still along for the ride. But they really gave us this full feel of where the show's going in season 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything in my power to renew my light.
The Deep, it's a character you probably should hate. He sexually assaults Starlight in the first episode of season 1, really early on in season 1. Yeah. And they're sort of giving this redemption arc, but then he does have this like cool moment where he's, sending all the sharks to attack the boys and riding on a giant.
He can do some stuff.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, finally, because he's kind of a joke for most of season 1 and even the early couple episodes of season 2. And we finally see, oh, this is why he's in the 7. The deep has this obvious female moment of like he's ashamed of his gills and he has to look at them and accept them in the same way that like it's
With
like very
Patton
vagina
Oswalt voicing them.
it's like very vagina monologues. And if they do something with this and do something with the female characters, like maybe this goes somewhere and it's not just some weird, moment, but sometimes the moments are just like, that's it. They just threw in something just to be like, haha, we're being kind of edgy and political here. But
well, I think they usually have a plan. I feel like the show tries to pay itself off. I mean, they paid off the edible bouquet from the funeral, so.
There's so many characters now. We've got Maeve, we've got Mother's Milk. Like there's these characters that are there and we're giving them occasional moments, but there's so much else going on that ends up kind of overshadowing things. So I think that's my only complaint is there's so much happening now in season 2.
But it's a credit to the actors too, because they're great. Because like Mother's Milk is great, but yes, he has to get a lot done in the little bit of screen time he has. But he does it, and that's kind of why I think the show works for me so well. Is all the acting is so top notch.
We finally get an actual sort of human moment with Noir, which I want to kind of point out, Noir is really the first Supe we see in season 2 really doing what Supes do. It's not a Homelander mission. We see a Noir mission, some clandestine operation. And then later, I think in episode
he's with
3,
the kid. He plays
he's
with the little kid.
It's a teddy.
And then we find out they've been giving Compound V to kids and that his whole childhood was stolen from him, and he cries silently.
And he cries. And
that's it. That's all we get. But it's huge.
For episode 1, I kind of loved that they Billy's not there until literally the last scene. Butcher kind of steals the air from the room. Any scene he's in, he kind of takes over. That's what he does.
Daddy's home.
To have him not be there for the first episode and have there be a real mystery of like, well, is he still alive? Is he, clearly, he is, but it was at least good to get that gesture and see what the other characters, give the other characters a chance to really, be front and center. But then, we find out, okay, he just woke up in a parking lot.
He's
TGI
confused
Fridays
as the rest
or whatever.
of us.
Tony
Cicero's, which they
Tony Cicero's. Yeah,
that's where they kept translucent in the first season.
Butcher? What happened?
It's like we still don't really have an explanation of why Homelander dropped him off in the middle of nowhere and just left him alive. In the same way, to me, we don't have a really good explanation of why A-Train is letting Starlight.
This I agree with you more. It makes no sense to me. It's like she's like, I'll tell him you killed your girlfriend. I'm like, who cares? They don't care. What's his name? Killed the mayor of Baltimore.
The Supes are killing people left and right. They'd be like, just listen. Don't let it hurt the bottom line. You'd be like,
don't get caught.
It was flimsy not having A-Train do anything about Starlight.
I guess the closest is he's not supposed to know about Compound V, and he's not supposed to be taking it.
Right.
Really?
True. We keep getting these moments where characters find out what's going on with other characters, some of their secrets, and it's pushing the limits of my believability that nobody's gonna do anything about this.
Those logical inconsistencies don't bother me because I believe they're going to explain it.
I hope that this doesn't become the big problem, the kind of crutch of the boys of just like, well, just forget that this person betrayed this other person because right now they got to be friends. Like,
I hope it doesn't go the soap opera route.
Who invited you exactly?
So in this show, what annoys me a little bit is they're like, oh, botched, like on E! Network, and all these TV shows and movies. I'm like, okay, it's a near enough divergence, and it's supposed to be kind of like a parallel world that I'm okay with it. But there is a little I hope they don't do that too much. I hope they don't get too referential because it's supposed to be a slightly alternate timeline, and I don't want them to throw off the logic of that by keeping 1 foot too grounded in our current reality.
Yeah, and I think it's right now, it seems like it's just supposed to kind of keep you connected, that it's like, oh, it's not that different from our world.
Yes.
But if they
don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
Clearly, it would be best if they don't overdo that.
Same person as always. Me.
With Edgar kind of, in Homelander having this confrontation, and Edgar, he just kind of gets him to back down just by telling him like, well, you're really not as important as you think you are.
Yeah.
And it made me start wondering, well, wait a second. apparently in season 1, the control mechanism for Homelander was just Elizabeth Shue, like emotionally, creepily manipulating him.
Some weird Oedipal thing.
Some weird Oedipal thing, and like she'll give him some breast milk every once in a while to like get him to like chill out. As weird as that was, but this season that's no longer an option, and he is starting to assert himself. He's starting to really like flex his control of the Seven and his influence inside of Vought. And I guess one of the things I'm starting to ask is there not another contingency plan? You know, Batman versus Superman. Do we not have a Kryptonite Lance?
Do they have a Martha? Do they have
a Martha? Is there a Martha out there? Obviously, Homelander is going to be a problem, not just for the boys at this point, but for Vought, for the rest of the Seven.
For the world.
For the world. Like Homelander is going to be a big threat, increasingly.
He wants his little kid to be his little Hitler Jr.
His
person.
little, scary, creature.
God. He said we're gods.
Literally we're gods.
We're above everyone. So what are they going to do about it if
what
he decides that?
And not just what are they going to do, but how did Vought as a company not have a plan for this already?
Well, see, I think the show's setting up Edgar. He acts a bit scared of Homelander,
right?
But he's more dismissive than he is afraid. And the afraid part feels like for show almost, like it's part of the dynamic. It's performative. And I think they're setting it up for he's the big bad. He's the real scary one. Or, I mean, he's got his finger on the button of the weapon that is.
There's so many schisms happening inside the Seven and inside of Vought now that, I wouldn't want to be part of that company.
We'll take them foot. There we go. And I get my wife back.
The best and saddest moment was the killing of Esposito's character, the CIA person, because I loved her.
Yeah.
And you're like, they're gonna get it, and then they just. It was a good death. This show does character death well.
Hands in the air, like you just don't care. Kill.
It's really almost impossible to talk about this show without kind of going into a little bit of like politics, because the show's so like corporatism and media representation, like PR and stuff, like how crucial that is in kind of selling war. And The Boys obviously came out of the war on terrorism as a back piece to this, but right now we got a lot of conversations happening about police, what is police accountability and everything, and it seems like they're not afraid to have that be part of the conversation of just kind of power. What does power do to people?
I feel like they've worked it out, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see how I feel at the end of it.
Exactly. Let's see how we feel, and we will be doing a big recap for the whole season as well after episode 8. So you'll get all of our thoughts, and we'll have plenty. Which we want to let people know we are going to be doing weekly recap and review of each episode every week as they come out. So please feel free to stop back and check in what we think about what's going on in Boys, because we are committed. We're here to the end.
We're all in, baby. We're all
in on The Boys. Like, subscribe, come along for the ride. It's gonna be almost like the deep riding a dolphin. I know where that boat's going. I know right where that boat's going. San Diego, a whale's vagina. I believe
exactly.
The terminology.
Free Willy's asshole.
Free Willy somewhere.